is that, by the way?
English Bulldog. That's Meg, right? We have two.
Oh,
One,
cute.
he's like, fuck it. I thought he's part pit bull. He's infatuated with my wife. We never had a dog more obsessed with my wife. Like, it's like the sun rises and sets with him. You know what I mean? Like, I feel safe leaving the house
That's
because
excellent.
if anything happens to her, he's dead. There's no other way. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
love that.
and then this is mine because she's a female. She's connected to me, but she's fucking fat and lazy and overfed, and she's my princess. But she lays on the ground. Our floor is gray. So my wife was walking out of the laundry room with a basket in her hands, didn't see Meg, and just went right over the top. So I was talking to you. That's what I heard was her go, "Oh fuck," and she fucking smashed.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad she's all right. Hey.
Oh yeah.
We're starting the show. Welcome to the show. We have my longtime friend of 20 plus years, former two-time heavyweight champion of the world, Frank Mir. Frank, man.
Hey, man.
Dude, good to see you,
Good to hear
bro.
you.
Good to see you, dude. It's been a little bit. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Vegas. That's where I was born and raised here, so I've never left. So
You at your house now?
Yeah, I got home. That's why, like, when we worked out times, like, okay, in the morning, I'm busy until about 1:30. I can rush home, shower, get ready, and then I don't take off again now probably till about 4 o'clock.
Shoot, man. Frank, you're living the dream, dude. We were catching up online, on the phone, actually. We started texting, and just like that, I had to call you, because, dude, it's the texting. We're trying to catch up over text. It's rough. But I'm like I told you over there, and it sounds a little weird. I'm a little bit older than you. This has sounded strange when we were talking, because you said to me, you go, right now, we were talking about our kids and our families, and you were saying, right now, my daughter is the same age as I was when I met you. And
actually,
that freaked me out.
My daughter's older. My middle son is the same age.
That's what you said.
When we first met.
And how old is he?
He turned 19.
Let me tell you something. You were a big 19-year-old when I met you.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we met?
Yeah, over at it was modern martial arts under a guy named Phil Karpinski, who was a purple belt under Rodrigo, I believe, and you guys.
Yes, Rodrigo Gracie, and I was just an unknown like brown belt. Listen, it was a different time back then. It was the '90s. It was jiu-jitsu was a rare thing. There wasn't many schools in the States back then.
No, not at all.
And,
in fact, and then it was even rarer. I mean, people I hear complain nowadays about being a big guy in the gym, like, "Oh, I don't got training partners." I'm like, bro. 25 years ago, I didn't have any. I mean, I had to learn how to train light and be technical because the next biggest guy in the gym was 170 pounds. And if I hurt anybody, I was playing by myself. And it's kind of a hard thing to learn how to fight by yourself.
When, back then, I would do a seminar and, I'd roll with everybody in the seminar because back then, I was a higher belt than most, obviously, because I was under Henzo. At that time, I believe I was a brown belt. Maybe
you just done well at it. It was a competition you just done because in fact you were showing us film on it.
I'm not bragging.
And it was a back take that you did, and it was incredible. You showed it to us, and in fact I still use it to this day from the seatbelt where you lean over, and you drive your shoulder in the back of the guy's head, and you roll him over. I was like, oh, that is so. Vividly remember that.
You know what's so funny about that? Because we love the movies. That was versus Jamis. That was versus Babs Oliuskin or something. He's from Dune. He fought Paul Atreides at the end of Dune. He challenged him. That's him. He's an actor now. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
That's Babs. We had like a school rivalry.
So cool.
How crazy! And guess what? Even cooler. Guess who the ref was? Nogueira was the ref.
No.
Yes, back when he had two healthy shoulders. This is a crazy 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of thing. Yeah. Because when I almost wore my Kimura Savage shirt today. I am a Kimura Savage, but listen, if there's anybody who's more of a Kimura Savage than myself, it's Frank. Because I've gotten many taps. He's taken shoulders. When I point out how brutal a Kimura break could be, and I point out the importance of tapping, I will point out the Frank Mir versus Nogueira fight, Antonio Nogueira. Mm-hmm. It was, first of all, is that us? Is there a fucking... There's always sirens going off over here. It's fucking like Gotham City.
They know you're here.
It's Gotham City. But, with that Nogueira fight, one... I believe you were the underdog because Nogueira is a fucking legend. Not that you're not, Frank, but at the time, he was the generation before us. We saw his fights with Fedor. We saw his fights versus Bob Sapp. You know?
Yeah, I remember watching this fight even with Heath Herring when he won the first Pride heavyweight belt. It was epic, you know what I mean? Hell, this guy was choking out Mark Hammer, the Coleman, when, Coleman was like, almost seemed like he was an, unbeatable monster, the ground and pound and top position, and he was triangling him,
He had,
from the back.
The one thing about, this is something that you guys both have in common, is the jiu-jitsu where heavyweights that are comfortable and very threatening off their back. Nogueira with his half guard sweeps and triangles. Fuck, man, Frank, how many limbs did you take? Jesus. I was there we fought on many of the same cards.
Yeah.
Many of the same cards. And I was there with the Tim Sylvia fight. Oh, I love this because I never liked that dork. But Tim Sylvia, when they were almost like, oh, why'd he stop it? Oh, I fucking know why he stopped it. Because it was a little low on the arm. It doesn't matter.
He actually was pulling out. And I'll be honest with everybody. I didn't think I was going to have the armbar anymore. He pulled out, but what I did was, and this kind of goes to why I hate sometimes what they've done with jiu-jitsu. I think that when you make rules for safety, I get it to a point, but it also creates bad habits. Like now, in the gym that I trained at, you could pick people up off the mat. If I got armbarred somebody and they could lift me up, I'd have to let the armbar go because that was considered like, hey, they could slam you. So it's your job to figure out how not to get lifted. So if you see the fight, I have the armbar. He starts to pull out and he goes to lift me up. And so I bridge and I extend myself so that I'm not a nice, tight, compact ball that he can pick up so that it drives him forward. So usually my technique would be, the system I did is I would bridge and then guys would fall forward and then I would just flip to the triangle on the other side because now they're driving forward. I just get my thigh over the shoulder. So I was just bracing to get ready for a triangle. And then as he lifted me, I felt the release of the bones and separated. I thought I just dislocated his elbow. But then it was one of those things, it was like, oh shit, I don't know what I have, but I have something. I'm not letting go. You know what I mean? Let me just keep driving and see what happens.
It was, did you see that fight?
Yeah, I saw that fight. Yeah.
It was, oh my God. Yeah. They could do just a highlight reel of your destruction of limbs. But back to that Minotauro fight.
That was a bad one. That was probably the worst break.
And that was the second fight, correct? Because the first
fight I caught him off guard because it's funny. I always tell people like it's like a Quigley Down Under scene. You know what I mean? Back then it was like, oh, you have a ground game, like you don't do stand up. Like no. I prefer submissions, grips, and holds because I think it's more realistic to a street fight. I'm not gonna have my hands taped in a street fight, but I know how to strike. You know what I mean? I know footwork and motion, and in fact, actually started there before I got into grappling. So then, I came out and I outstruck him and I knocked him down like 4 times. They stopped the fight in the second round. So then the second time around is when he actually caught me with a shot and was going to go for the finish, but then I was able to go ahead and reverse him and lock up the Kimura.
And listen, after that first fight, they did the Ultimate Fighter. Mm-hmm. Correct? You did the Ultimate Fighter?
Actually, no. The first fight, did the Ultimate Fighter leading up to the first. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, leading up to the first fight. Yeah. So listen, there was a lot of. It's not that it's bad blood, but Minotauro's a proud guy, and as far as warriors go, dude, that guy's not in the quick tap club. Oh, no. He is not in that quick tap club, and it's one of those things where it's not mind over matter. It's you. The arm's done. He ripped his arm off. It's one of the nastiest things I ever see. I'm only smiling because it's sick. But listen, I love jiu-jitsu, is what I'm saying.
It didn't break like a normal Kimura. It didn't rip the shoulder. Most of the time when guys, most Kimura injuries, you internally rotate the shoulder that far, you get a rotator cuff tear. And that just could be a life. That could be career ending. There would be a disastrous hole. Actually, for whatever reason, just the angle, it actually broke at the humerus. It actually broke bone. So it saved your shoulder. So even though that sounds horrible that it broke the humerus, spiral fracture, I mean, they said it was in like 9 different pieces. And they had to put pins in it and stuff. But he was able to fight after that. I think that if it had been soft tissue, if I would have torn the labrum and rotator cuff and just gutted his shoulder out, I don't think it'd ever been the same. I don't think he could ever be using it again.
When it's behind the back like that, you have no choice. I remember one time on UFC Unfiltered in studio, we had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, the scientist, and he used to be a wrestler. He's a grappler.
Harvard, he wrestled, yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. So he started showing me ankle picks, and so I started showing him the Kimura, and so he's like, "Oh, I know the way out of this." I'm like, "Hey, listen, you might know the cosmos, doc, but you're fucked right now." I just let him know.
Out too, man. It's called tap.
Yeah, so I showed him the mechanic. It just felt good that I could probably show that guy Nothing at all, but I could, show him some jiu-jitsu. It was
that's one thing where I guess it's a perfect example about staying in your lane. Even though that guy has many lanes more than we do. I got it.
That's the only lane I'm staying with him. But Frank, so we met at that seminar ages ago.
Yeah.
And then since then, we both got in the UFC. And shit, man, we both became champs. Well, I mean, you were two-time champ. I mean, shit.
Well, and also too, like I remember you're fighting. Like they didn't even have a 55-pound weight class in the UFC.
No,
you had to fight. I mean, you really had to fight up at 170. You know?
But you know what, man? Just like your fight with Minotauro, where you kind of shocked him with your hands. That's what I did to get the title, Frank. Up until that, I fought with my jiu-jitsu. They knew me as a jiu-jitsu guy. So it's almost like Minotauro kind of maybe downplayed that with you in the first fight. He might have not respected that as much until it was too late. You know what I mean?
Actually, that's funny you draw correlations. That's true because I think when George St. Pierre fought you the first time, obviously taking you down would be very much like, okay, like, pick your poison here. Like,
Yeah.
Would you really want to be on top of this guy where he's grabbing you and able to sweep because, your sweeps and submissions are so top notch. But your overhand right is just, your right hand is, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, striking is extremely powerful. And that's one reason, too. It's actually one of my reasons why I tell people, like, hey, when I get into a fight, to me, strikes control distance. That's all they're meant for. If I put you to sleep with a strike, all the better. But I don't want to really ever be in range that I can get struck. I want to hit you to get in or hit you to keep you away, to keep distance, because that's the one thing that, like, I can go grapple somebody. If I'm the better grappler, 99,000 times, I'm going to win.
Yes.
I've seen Floyd Mayweather get rocked, but put on skates. You know what I mean? Like when you throw punches, there's this element that just, as the more skilled fighter, there's that element that we can't control because of how the human body's built, the speed of the hands, eye-hand coordination, reaction time. There's lucky shots. I've never heard of a lucky armbar. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I caught him. I swung for the try, and it happened. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, so that just shows you it's like, hey, when you strike, that's why the best strikers in the world, they all have knockouts on their record that they've received. You play by the sword, you die by the sword.
100%. And even though in instances you have to, have the level of threat, like, check the level of threat. Like when I had that guy in Vegas that time, I knew I could just take this guy and fucking control him. If he was a little more threatening, I might have threw that right hand right at his chin and then took him down. You know what I mean? So you got to just assess the situation with your skill set. But I'm the same way.
And also, too, in the street, that's one thing, too, that I can be completely in the right. I get an altercation at the bar. Some guy slaps my wife on the ass, says something, I tell him to apologize. He tells me to fuck off. Next thing you know, like I put him to sleep, right? If I just put him to sleep, hit a nice little arm drag, take his back, put him down, it diffuses the situation. If I blast him and bust his nose up, I'm in the right. Cops show up, his fucking nose is over here. You know what I mean? Like, people don't realize it's not only the criminal, situations you have to deal with litigation, but there's also like civil, getting sued. People I see them teach their kids Muay Thai, and I'm like, man, your 12-year-old is a badass, but like, if he does that to any kids at school, you might be homeschooling for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Like, that's another aspect of grappling where it's superior and it's so much for civilian life. It's like more humane. It's like, all right, look, I can really put you down. Hell, I actually could kill you if I wanted to with the same maneuver, but I can diffuse the situation without, looking like the menace. And I don't want to go home and spend the weekend in jail.
Hey, listen, or you could fucking luck out like Joe Schilling. Fuck it, Joe Schilling. Remember Joe Schilling handled that?
Yeah.
That guy looked like a total douchebag in that bar. I don't know if you've seen this little. I'll show you after this. Joe Schilling's a very good MMA fighter, but a really, really, really good kickboxer and Muay Thai fighter. He's just fucking stand up is nasty.
Yeah.
So he put this guy to sleep with just a fucking right, left, right, ba ba ba, just as fast as.
I remember seeing the video. Yeah. It's funny nowadays. Like people don't realize. Everybody trains now. It's not like it used to be 20 years ago where I'm like, unless the guy comes from you could tell someone comes from a neighborhood, they don't have a lot of money. Fighters don't come from rich neighborhoods, and nowadays that's not true. You got rich kids that have been training jiu-jitsu and doing MMA classes. It's like, I watched the film where this kid was getting bullied and the kid came out, skinny little white kid, throws a 1-2 head kick. The guy like kind of is getting rocked, grabs him, and he like jumps up and arm bars him. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, wow, now when fights break out in bars, I'm like, I'm putting my back against the wall. Fuck, man, any purple belt here jumps on my back, I'm gonna have a fight on my hands here. Like,
right? Hey, man. I listen. That's what I would never underestimate anybody. I try to steer clear. Yeah, you know. And not only that, and we're going to get into the. By the way, we're going to be getting into the John Wick movie soon because when I asked you what you want to talk about, I always ask the guys like, look, man, we're going to catch up, but if there's anything you want to geek out about, man, a movie franchise. He brought up John Wick, Frank, and I go, dude, I did a marathon the last fucking few days because I didn't see the last two, you know, so fuck, I'm all in. But before we get into that, I got to ask you, man, because I was right there for this, and it was a very proud moment for just like real fighters in general. I'm not saying real fighters because this guy ended up being a real fighter, even though he was always juiced to the gills. Your fight versus Brock Lesnar when he first came into the UFC was a thing of beauty because... like I said, dude, I love jiu-jitsu. And, you know, he's a powerful, powerful guy. Just tell us really quick that just...
NCAA wrestling champion, you know, at heavyweight.
He's not CM Punk. And no, I like CM Punk. But this guy's a legit savage. A guy that's, you know, if he didn't go the pro wrestling route, easily his credentials alone with wrestling and grappling could have got him a pass into the UFC. You know 100%. What I mean? So when you knew that you were fighting him, you were welcoming him to the UFC. No, Heath Hearing fought him first, right? He beat Heath Hearing first.
No, actually, I was his welcome.
Oh, and then he beat...
Then he fought Heath.
And then he fought Heath. Oh, you were his welcoming body. How did that feel to get that call, bro? That's got to be a lot of pressure.
You know, it was, but I didn't realize the amount of pressure it was in until I got to the fights. You know, and we're walking backstage and MGM, you know what I mean? All the, you know, the interviews we're doing, all, you know, they're doing all the fight week shit, right? And I wish I could remember who did it to me, but one of the other fighters in the card had said to me, he goes, hey, man, you know, you're representing, you know, MMA, you got to, martial arts. You got to make sure you beat the pro wrestler. And at that point, I kind of stopped. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You guys think he's a pro wrestler? Like, that's what we're thinking I'm facing? I'm like, no, that's not right. The guy's an NCAA champ. I mean, he was a runner-up against Stephen Neal his junior year. He lost to who was one of the best wrestlers of all time at heavyweight for us in the U.S., the guy had won the Don Hodge Award, and then he loses to him in the finals. And then his senior year, he goes undefeated, becomes a national champ. I think he had like less than, I think he was like 105-3 in college. I'm like, the guy's a legitimate, like the base of wrestling this guy has down. But so wait a minute, you guys think, you're only thinking he's a pro wrestler. So that scared me. I was like, oh shit, no, I'm not fighting no actor. I'm actually fighting a guy that went into pro wrestling, but he's been wrestling since he was a kid for, you know, Minnesota, North Dakota kid, you know, South Dakota, I believe. And so his credentials were fucking scary. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's a legitimate threat. And you guys are thinking he's a pro wrestler. So that actually made me very apprehensive. I was like, oh shit. You know, people, if something happens and I struggle with this guy, they're going to think, oh, look, pro wrestling. I'm like, no, this ain't pro wrestling, buddy. That guy's an actual legitimate, you know, grappler.
And then it's fight day and you're walking out to fight him. And you're walking, the walk, we get in the cage, we're staring at that savage. Let's go. What are we thinking, Frank?
I need to get new management.
I mean, come on, man. No.
No, seriously. I remember because that was one thing that was kind of actually infuriated my wife. But yeah, my wife's my pit bull. You know, to the point where like a lot of times we get into fights because she's protecting me.
It's great.
But I'm easygoing. I don't give a shit. So I remember they had called me up like 2 days before the fight. They're like, hey, we know you're a former champion, but we're gonna have him walk second. You know what I mean? So you're gonna be waiting for him in the cage. So if you watch the fight, I was there first. I had to walk first.
Shit.
They made him walk second. So he was definitely the favorite. He was, you know, the UFC was, you know, really, you know, had, you know, dollar signs in their eyes for the amount of, and rightfully so, you know, what he was going to make. But that the old, you know, the, what's the word I'm looking for? The custom of having the more experienced or the more accomplished fighter walk second, especially being a former champion, we actually threw out the window. So right off the bat, you know, it was very much, I was just the B guy. I was just showing up to be someone that, you know, to be thrown to the wolves. They were hoping, you know. And so, because that was after my accident, you know, and I really hadn't came back that strong, you know, like, you know, won a fight, lost a fight, won a fight. You know, they didn't know how my leg was doing. And I came off the Anthony Hard Dunk, which I won by Kimura. Yeah. It looked good, but it was still a quick fight. So they're like still some question marks. So I remember sitting in the cage and waiting for him. And then I remember looking over, I could see my wife, just a scowl in her face. She's just so angry. And I'm trying to like, so here I'm trying to actually console her, like, dude, please stop. It's not that big of a deal.
Did she know that you were coming out first?
Yeah.
Oh, she did know. All right. So
she knew. She was very unhappy about it.
Okay.
So as he walks in the cage, he's now at this point, I turn around because he's like, he's kind of doing footwork side to side, just kind of loosening up his legs. And he's so fucking athletic. Like people sit there, a big guy. I'm like, dude, I prefer to fight big guys every day of the week. The bigger, the better, because they're unmobile. They gas out. They can't even fucking touch their toes. You know what I mean? Let alone, hit a move. So that's why you don't see too many high level fighters look like power lifters.
Yeah.
That build doesn't really make you a very good fighter. It's like, 160-pound pit bull looks scary as shit. He ain't kicking the shit out of no, 70-pound pit bull. You know what I mean? Like, there's athleticism, And so, but when he was moving around, I remember just looking over, I'm like, fuck, he's athletic. God damn it. And that's what the joke I really made. I'm like, I got to fucking start learn how to say no to this.
Yeah. And then was it just, because how much, leading up to that fight, how much guard work did you work?
At that point in my career, I still was kind of like, and that's one thing that actually upsets me. Sometimes I get depressed about it in the last couple of years. So I've really broken down my training as I train my children. And I don't know, like I train jiu-jitsu, but I train it's MMA, mixed martial arts. It's like, so even on the ground, like we don't have to hit each other, but like at any moment, like we remind each other, hey, there's touches here. I always spar roll with the inclination that this is for fighting, you know what I mean? And so at that point in my career, I was still doing I still trained with a gi on. Yeah. I was still trained jiu-jitsu gi, then I'd go to a boxing guy, I'd have the kickboxing guy. So it's very individualized aspects of the sport. Hadn't really focused on wrestling yet. That wasn't until the second fight that actually woke my eyes to like how important really, and we say it, but at that point I thought, well, I could still submit a wrestler off my back, who cares? But then I'm like, nah, let's make sure we get on top as much as possible. And you're capable of submitting someone off your back if you have to,
Yeah.
And so worked a lot of just going for the legs is what I really was hoping to catch on him, because I figured that his arms and neck, were just so big and so powerful and also too, that's why I think we all know when you choke somebody, you really beat them. You know what I mean? If I can take your back, that means, okay, look, that means I put you down, passed your guard, took your back. There's a lot of like dominance there.
Yes.
So I have to have a good position, to catch you. You can be mounted on top of me and I can be in a bad position. And if you don't pay attention and I get you extended out and I can catch, a reap, I'm heel hooking the shit out of your knee bar. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you went from a good position to like, you're going to get your leg ripped off. So I knew that protecting his limbs would be difficult. He had such a long arm. So I was hoping to armbar or leg lock him. So that even in the fight, you see, I knew that, I'm not going to take the guy down. He's, he's going to take me down, hopefully, with his, with his natural reactions. But even from like side control, he was so powerful that if you watch the fight again, he had me in side control, and I bridged and pumped up and was able to slide my knee across the belly. And I threw my leg over the head. I had an arm bar. Yeah. And then he yanked right out of it. I mean, we weren't even sweaty yet. I was like, holy shit. So that's why when we stood up, he stood in front of me. I kind of just started looking around, and I remember putting my instep of my foot on his calf. Kind of like, hey, just to kind of like say, what do you think about this? And he didn't react. I was like, oh, cool. So then I just inverted on my shoulder and was able to take the knee bar on him because there was no reaction on his part. I'm like, oh, really? You're not scared that I'm grabbing this right now? All right. Yeah. So I actually tried to grab it in a way. It was funny because like I study so much psychology. I knew that if you watch me, if I would have went for it fast with urgency, he doesn't know what's going on, but it's like how when you roll people, someone has a new move. It's like, hey, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I can tell you're trying to do something here. So I'm just going to pull my elbow in and post out or just get out of here. Right? Yeah. But if you kind of go slow, it's like even like punching someone. You can walk up to him and go, oh, and be like, what are you doing? What's going on? And there was there's no alarms. There's no alarms are going off because of how, passively I was able to move and catch it. And then when he jumped over the top, actually, I thought I was in a knee bar and dropped. Usually when I do that move, people fall to their ass. Yeah. He jumped and drugged me with him. And that's a good thing that like when people talk about, skill and size and strength, I'm like, look, I'm skilled, but my strength also helped me that I was able to pinch my knees together. And he drugged me like a little child. If you watch, he jumped over the top of me and drugged me about 5 feet as I'm hanging on. You're on. And then that's when I started applying the knee bar. I was like, oh, got him.
Mazzagatti was the ref?
Yes.
And I believe he waited a little too long, no? Did we feel that thing pop?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, here's the thing.
He was upset about it. Not Mazzagatti.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I mean, he was tapping, and I think, but I mean, you got to remember, he was the A guy. He was supposed to come in like here. I think Mazzagatti, and not accusing anybody of anything, but I wouldn't fault him for sitting there going, I don't think the UFC wants to, if we're going to have to make a close call here, let's not err on the side of going against Brock. You know what I mean? Like, let's like give him a little extra breathing room. Which, to Brock's point, he's like, dude, I almost got my knee exploded. He's sitting there screaming. And that's another case in point where I show people, like, when I tap people in fights, I don't let go until the referee touches me. But I don't apply more pressure. I've never done that. You know what I mean? Like, if I know, so if you look, as I'm holding him, I feel the tap on my butt, and I'm sitting there, and he's tapping my hip, and then you look at me, I'm like, going, what the hell's going on? To the referee, like, where is he? You know, and then finally Mazzagatti was able to come in and stop it.
You know why, man? You show a little bit of mercy there, and all of a sudden the ref doesn't jump in, and he gets out, and he starts letting some of those soup bones down on you. I mean, dude. You know,
Bustamante, when he fought
Matt Lindland.
I was there. I was actually even commentating that. And look, Matt Lindland's a competitor. He says he didn't tap. He did tap. It looked like to me he tapped. I don't know. But because Bustamante went off of him, they restarted that fight. Now, luckily for Bustamante, he ended up still winning the fight. But that could be, like, I remember from that moment looking on, I'm like, okay, don't train, which is important anyways. I don't think you should train to make people tap. I really don't. Like, to me, as I apply a move, I want to make sure, like, first of all, the ultimate's to choke is what I want.
Yes.
To me, submissions, arm bars, kimuras, leg locks, they're just because it's in my way. And it's like, okay, it's kind of like scoring a touchdown in a game. It's not over with, but I'm upping the score in my favor. I guess I kind of think of it akin to like a boxer take a body punch. Hey, man, if you fall down and take a knee and the fight's over with, great. But that body punch is actually more meant to hurt you and disable you and put you more in my favor. So that's the way I look at submissions. Even nowadays when I train with people, I've never had anything broken in the gym. I've never had my knee popped. I've never had anything because I tap. Yeah. When something feels uncomfortable, you catch me, I tap. If I don't know how you got me, I'm probably going to ask you after we roll how you got me, what'd you do, show me, you know what I mean? But the ego of, like, you not protect yourself, guys, just let it go. I'm like, no, that reinforces that they're an idiot, that this is a game or something. Like, if you're not tapping, I'm assuming that means my move isn't very good because it's not breaking something, you know what I mean? Like, if you tap, that means you're protecting your limb and you're reinforcing I have good technique. If you just train to make people tap in the gym all the time for shit that doesn't really going to make them tap in a fight. There's things that I'll tap to in the gym. It's like, okay, that's kind of pain compliance. Yeah. But if we're outside my car right now, my kids were there and you're in between me and them, I'm not tapping to that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, that ain't happening. And most people ain't, you know what I mean?
That's on them, though. That's bad technique. That's why I tell guys, when I see a bigger guy being like, well, he tapped. I'm like, yeah, he tapped with your forearm across his neck. If that gets a bigger guy, you're a little bit lighter. That's not going to work, man. What do you don't?
But see, that starts with the mentality that Buddy tapped.
Yeah,
I'm like, hold on. It's funny, and there's actually it's actually a process of thought. I forgot what it's called, but basically, it's when you use the measuring stick as the actual test. For example, when they did the No Child Left Behind, right? So we educated the kids. So they say, hey, we're going to make sure the kids take this test.
Yeah.
And how well they do on the test is how well we'll do for, state or government funding to the school. So what teachers did, which humans do, is they just taught the kids how to take the test. They weren't teaching them. They said, okay, well, we'll just make you better at the test. It's kind of like when guys go to the weight room. I always tell people, they're like, hey, are you lifting weights to be a better fighter? Or are you lifting weights for the sake of lifting weights? I see guys like, I can bench press 2.25 for 30 reps. I'm like, that doesn't, you're missing the point. That's a measuring tool for upper body strength and endurance, but you're specializing in now the game. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, so you're good at the game, but for the sake of the game, but you should be good at the game because it helps reinforce realistic life, realistic aspects of situations and systems.
Yes, you're not bench pressing yourself out of most situations in the street.
No. That's why, like, people at the combine, watch the NFL combine. How often do you see a guy like, they'll show them on ESPN, this guy just ran for his position the fastest. You never hear about them when they're in a regular season ever again. That was their highlight. They specialized to be good at the test. So to me, when you train just to make people tap, it's like, okay, so like, of course, I mean, there's times I tap the things, it's like, and I'll be honest with you, the guy who tapped, like, honestly, it was just uncomfortable. I didn't want but I don't think it was a good move. You should have been here, been there, and I can give adjustments. But if you're just there to make people hurt and make them tap, it's like, yeah, but right now we're all got to go to work tomorrow.
100%, dude.
There's a different mentality.
You want longevity. I don't know about you, but since I got done fighting, I haven't taken one punch since I got done fighting. I haven't sparred one day. I'll do some pad work, but I roll all the time. Even if it's with my wife, I can have a nice chess match with her. She's a purple belt now. I just stay sharp, and And you know, when I get moves off on her, I'm not forcing anything. It's got to be 100% technical. I'm not using my strength so we have a nice little chess match, and she knows how to get out from the back, so it's a nice.
So important for women.
It's so great, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk John Wick. What made you pick John Wick when I brought up topics?
You know what? I think in our culture, entertainment has a huge influence on who people are and who they identify as. Because if you think about, like my kids have all turned out to be pretty, something that I'm very proud of, but they also have identities. I sit there and, hey, like, don't just do this for doing it. Do this to be like this person. Do you admire that person? Well, they read books, they train, they lift, they exercise. Like, you want to be like this person. So I think we use that as to draw identity all the time. And I remember being a little kid watching Bloodsport and, and all the, Van Damme movies and Steven Seagal and being inspired by them, but also having an unrealistic view of what real life would look like in a fight. I think all of us did until 1993. Most of us, that was when the bubble got popped. We're like, oh shit, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so I like John Wick because I like how movies now, because most people nowadays are way more educated on what a real fight looks like, or a one-on-one duel without a weapon, what they look like. Like, oh, well, here, look, UFC 1, this is what it looks like, So I think they expect more from the movies. I mean, I remember the other day I was just watching Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Now, there's a scene where, towards the beginning of the movie where he has one of the bad guys, he's holding him by the ankle over this ravine. He goes, remember when I told you I'd kill you last? He goes, yeah, that's right. He's all, I lied. And he drops him, right? At the time when I watched the movie, I didn't think nothing of it. Now, because I lift and I train, I'm like, there's nobody in the world that can hold a 155-pound man out at arm's length and have a conversation with him. I'm like, that's so like absurd that like it's not even, it's like, okay. What I like now about movies like John Wick is that it's still a movie. There's still, obviously they still push the boundaries of reality, but there's so much more of a base and anchoring of what's realistic. I'm like, oh look, he hits a choke here, he hits an armbar. Oh, that's a real judo throw. He hit so many judo throws, I was like losing count. I was like, oh shit, he was there. Oh, Sagari. Oh wow. Oh shit. And so I thought that was great because not only does it inspire kids to want to train and do martial arts, but I think it's also more interesting because I'm not sitting there like in movies that was the last 15 years. I'm like, bullshit, that's not even a real move at all. Whereas now it's like, well, yeah, if you never got tired and you hit everything perfectly, that's all realistic,
I'm getting back to these John Wick movies, but this brings me back to when I first started training. And I was watching the Gracie in Action videos, and this was before the first UFC. And I saw a fight scene in a movie, and I was practicing it on my brothers, the stuff they were doing in the movie. And that movie was Lethal Weapon. And Jorge and Gracie did the fight scenes for that.
That's right, the
Gary Busey fight scene with Mel Gibson at the end, I'm telling you, it holds up. I would make the triangle a little tighter and whatnot, but there was judo throws, there was fucking reversals, arm locks, triangles. It was great. I was practicing it. I'm like, that's what they do. I
realized that till years later, going back and watching the movie, because I watched as a kid, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, who choreographed? I had to look into it and realize, like, oh wow, they're actually training jiu-jitsu. I had no clue at the time. I thought he had his legs wrapped, scissored his head. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know what the hell that is, And now I'm like, oh my god, he was hitting actual legitimate shit.
I'm like, this could end the fight. This could really end the fight. I was like so excited, So because I was a little bit older than you when I was watching it. So I'm like, wow. So yeah, so the John Wick movies, there's a lot. And I just revisited, I've seen them all over the last
What'd you think overall as far as
now listen, I enjoyed them. I did. Because when I first watched the first one, I had a big problem with it. Because you know why? Now I look at them almost like I look at the Marvel movies, where you really gotta, obviously, the boogeyman and stuff. Even though there's a lot of real awesome technique in it, from jujitsu, collar chokes, clock chokes, and there's so much stuff in it. I'm like, I'm telling my kids, I go, look, you know that one. I love it. I love it. But one thing from the first movie that it's still to right now, it bothers me. And that's this, Frank. No Sloman shield? Did you leave the door unlocked there, John? Theon Greyjoy's going to sneak in and hit you. I'm the best assassin on the planet, the boogeyman. I must have left the window open. What the fuck? How do these guys end up in his living room and he's looking at them three like, I must have burglars, and he gets hit over the head with a pipe by Theon. He's the best assassin. He's the boogeyman. Big
That was
plot
fun
hole
me
right
too.
there.
But I guess just to make the story go right, they maybe should have been a little bit differently. But it was the opposite. Usually, what ends up happening in most movies, usually our hero kicks the shit out of everybody so easily, right? And then he gets to the final bad guy. Now he's fighting 100 guys at a time. He's smashing. Now the final bad guy, all of a sudden, like now puts up a fight. I'm like, wait a minute, this dude was a fucking killer. Whole movie, since and now he can't beat up this one guy that's like not even known to be a fighter.
After that scene, he went on and he's the fucking he's back. And I love all the scenes. I like when he's shit talking the guy. They got him tied to a chair. And he's giving a great. I love the line. People keep. I can't do a great canoe. How do you pronounce it?
Keanu.
Keanu. Keanu. But when he's like, people keep asking me if I'm back, and yeah, I'm back. I love that line. But dude, he could literally just shoot you in the head. What are we monologuing for? What is happening here? You know what I mean? But I know it's a movie. I gotta have that disbelief.
Yeah, some of the plot armor at times can be rough, but I buy into that's in a movie. I just love the fact that at least this time it was not a guy where it was so implausible. Some of the physical scenes, I'm like, all right, that can't happen. Nobody in the world is going to hold that position for that amount of time. I don't think Thor could do that.
Exactly.
It's like that's just not realistic. But a lot like some of the sweeps and even some of the material. It's funny because everybody always talks about gi being whether it's good for the street or not. There was certain scenes where he was holding collars and sleeves and. He did De La Hiva and swept underneath. I was like, oh shit, look, and pulling him off balance. So I thought it was very interesting to see that, they're incorporating a lot of stuff in here, and even from the gun scenes to the hand to hand, I found it extremely entertaining. And at least, I buy into movies too. It's funny how we buy into some stuff. It's like when you watch a movie, but it's like, and I'm being, I'm also guilty of this right now. But one time I was watching when Superman first came out again.
Yeah.
The new one. And there's a scene where the guy has a mounted 50 caliber, right? And he's shooting, and all of a sudden he's shooting the Superman character in the chest. And then the guy walks up, and which if I ever saw a human being taking a 50 caliber to the chest and still standing there, it's time to run, dude. Hope to God they're not interested in you. Yeah. And so he walks up to him and he pulls the trigger and he shoots him in the eye. Right? It shows the bullet in slow motion bend on Superman's eye and drop. And then this guy in the theater goes, bullshit. I wanted to so badly ask the guy, I'm like, wait a minute. So he came from another planet. He's dense. He can fly, shoot lasers out of his eyes. But you draw the line there. That's where he lost you.
That's
that's not realistic. I'm like, it's fucking Superman, man. It's fucking. This is what it is.
You got to look at that in the John Wick universe. You got to look at it obviously, because I'm going to go through the movies with it, where some of the scenes when I'm just like, Actually, well, listen. Let's get done with the first one. The first one though. It was a great movie, though. Even the way it ended, with him getting the dog. And what I like about all these movies is, it picks up right where the fuck it left off. It's not like it's, all right, how many years later? Nah, dude, he's running through the street with the dog in the next one. You know what I mean? Yeah. How the second one starts. And did John Woo direct any of them?
No.
It's got that kind of style, that hard-boiled type of, old school classic, kung fu karate type.
Chad Stahelski directed. He was a stuntman for a long time, and then he wound up directing all these because he worked with Keanu, and because obviously you guys talking about it, he was very much into martial arts, and he wanted to direct these things.
Yeah, so the fight scenes. I love the fight scenes. I do, because like I said, how much do they put into that? I mean, because there's so many moves that were in there, and most of them are legit. But it's so funny though, because sometimes they'll be. I like that. I like that he's doing jiu-jitsu 1 second, then he takes his gun out and starts shooting a guy in the knee. Fucking, you know what I mean?
Gun fu.
Yeah, the integration that they did and with the firearms, I thought was cool, because then also too, I always like that when I get to see the actors. I mean, obviously, get into acting. It doesn't have to have stuntmen, but it's cool to see Keanu training and working throws and working chokes and working strikes and actually training the art. And then even, man, he was pretty good with the firearm.
Yeah.
Who's that? I think is it Tier. Oh, there's an actual firearm instructor that he goes to. That they just show a couple YouTube clips of him training with 3-gun, doing shotgun, long rifle, and sidearm. And it was very impressive. Him doing his live action reload. It's like he was actually reloading and indexing the firearm in proper ways. It's like, well, yeah, that's actually, you know, realistic on how he's reloading.
I'm not a huge gun guy, but when I see him doing that, the way we are, I don't know if you're a big gun guy, but the way we're geeking out about the martial art details, I guarantee you the gun guys are going, ooh, look at the way he's, because you see him actually in the different guns with the shot, he's reloading it, and it looks legit. Like, you know, it looks like he got his reps in.
Reloads with the shotgun, like, you know, like that's some of the stuff he's doing. It's like, no, that's actually the right way to do it. And that's actually the way, well, so far as I've been taught, because I like going shooting, I have instructors and stuff. I love, you know, to me, martial arts is everything, you know, empty hand, closed hand, just, you know, it's all just an extension of who you are in your mind and breaking yourself down. And at the end of the day, I have a really cool, you know, asset of skills that could probably help me out if, you know, if I ever had to protect the family, right? So, but watching him do the, you know, in fact, actually some of the things I looked at, like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. And I went and looked at it, and that actually was a way of, like, you know, sometimes when he would, like, rotate his hand to snap on the magazine release to throw the magazine, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, hopefully you're out. You don't have any rounds in there, I guess, but you know, you just lost whatever rounds are still in that magazine. But I thought that was super interesting, super cool, like to show that it works. One thing I like that they show too is that a lot of people don't realize is that with a pistol, with a slide, if you push it in on somebody at point range, if I, like, you and I are in a fight and I try to push the barrel of the gun against you, it won't fire if you push the slide back a little bit, because it takes it out of battery. So that's why, like, a lot of times, like, I carry a snub nose on me for those type of situations, because if I press a revolver in on you, I can push the barrel in and then pull the trigger and it's going to go off. Whereas if, you know, the Glock or any, you know, semi-automatic pistol, when you push the barrel in on somebody, it pulls the slide back. You can pull the trigger, it doesn't go off. You know, so some guys have done that where they think they're going to kill somebody. Like, oh, I got you. And they put the barrel up against you, and then it doesn't pull anymore. You can't discharge the firearm.
See the shit that Frank knows?
It's crazy.
Think he knows just Kimuras?
Nope. That's another reason not to mess with him.
That's fantastic. I know what else I love? I love that they got dogs in all these fucking movies. Mm-hmm. They got every one of them. It's a big, you know what I love? Hal Berry came into the third one.
Yeah,
right.
Her trained dogs were incredible, right?
They were amazing, you know? I love the scenes when, and I like really quick when Bronn from Game of Thrones, you know, he's a good actor because he played one of the guys on the table. He was not close to the table, I don't know, but when he shot her dog and he's telling how do I pronounce his name again?
Which one? Keanu.
What's the matter with me? I love Bill and Ted. So when Keanu looks at her, he's just like, you know.
You know, it's funny to say his name by itself. I have to say Keanu Reeves. I don't know if I can say Keanu.
Sorry.
So maybe that'll be.
Yeah, but I know it's hard to say it just by itself. But when Keanu looks at her, he's just like, you know, don't do it. And then after they kill everybody, she's like, he shot my dog, and he's like, I get it. Like, I get it. Like, this whole thing's because they shot his dog. And it's a little line there, but I fucking loved it. Do you know what?
Yeah, no.
Because the way he's got a unique, people like goof on his acting. I love it. He's just got a unique style. Which he's just like, he shot my dog. And she was fantastic in it, Hal Berry. This ain't Hal Berry as Catwoman. She was great in this. So
she did some training too to make sure that she looked proficient when she was doing the gun scenes and fight scenes.
She looked great. She always looks great, Hal Berry. You ever see Monsters? You ever see Monsters Ball? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I remember someone told me as far as acting on Halle Berry, they said that during that movie Monsters Ball, that her husband and her actually the premiere, right? That he had to get up and leave. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know it's acting.
No, dude, I'm not.
That was my wife in that.
I'm not
scene. I know I would struggle. I mean, I'm sure if you were his husband, his wife. Yeah. What's the guy's name?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton. I'm sure that she wasn't happy watching that scene, but yeah, that was probably about as much of a scene that if that had been around when I was a kid before I knew how to get on there.
That scene's been put to use a lot. But back to John Wick and dogs. What about that scene when he lets the not the manager, who's the consigliere, not the consigliere, who's the black gentleman, the bald guy?
He's passed away.
Did he pass away in real life?
Yeah.
He was great in that movie.
Yeah.
I like when he wanted to watch the dog, and then when John Wick leaves, you see the dog just looking up at him. Yeah. And some scenes were done very well. Like, you just, you know, the cinematography. How do you pronounce that word? Cinematography.
Cinematography.
Thank you. You got to help me out with these words in front of Frank. Don't make me look bad. But I love it. I love it. So yeah. So the second one, I do like that. And again, the guy from Deadwood, who's good in everything.
Ian McShane.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
guy has a cool voice, man. Like I could probably, if they said, hey, he's gonna be down. I'm like, what's he doing? He's gonna read a cookbook. I'm like, all right, I'll pay for it. I'll watch.
Anything. He even did a Hercules movie with The Rock, and I thought he was great in that. Right. That's an underrated movie. Or maybe it's rated right.
I think where he sits there and they shoot arrows at him and like closes his eyes. He sits there like.
That wasn't a bad movie. That was like a fun movie. What was that called? The Hercules movie.
Hercules, I think.
There you go. Hercules with The Rock. Find that.
Actually, yeah, it was a good movie.
It wasn't bad. It was like almost like a throwback to the older kind of Hercules movies, and it was a little goofy and it had some humor to it, you know. But so then I like when he gave John Wick that hour. You can't listen. The table doesn't fuck around. You can't give an inch, man. Lawrence Fishburne, 7 bullets, 7 cuts. The other lady with the opera, the ballerinas, she got sliced through the hands. These people you can't, listen, if anybody becomes...
movie 3 or 4 when they actually just blew the whole thing up. The whole, like, all right, done, you know?
When you become excommunicado, you're in deep shit. You know what I mean? How many times did it... And I like the scene in the third one or the fourth one, when it almost felt like the Warriors, when she's talking, the Warriors, of course. You ever see the Warriors, Frank?
Yeah.
Remember when she's like doing updates on them a little bit, right? Didn't that feel like a throwback to the Warriors? Yeah. It was like nuts. It did. When I'm watching it, I'm like, holy shit, that reminds me of Hello, Bobbers. You know what I mean? I don't know. She's giving like survey.
Well, fun fact is, to throw it back to what Frank was talking about too, in Warriors, one of the main guys in Warriors is the guy that Arnold dropped off the cliff in Commando.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I think, what was his name? Was it Telly or something?
In Commando, it was Telly. Yeah, I lied.
That's hysterical. But so then he gave him that little bit of help, and it ended up just being hell for him. But he stuck to his guns. Lawrence Fishburne tried to, didn't work out great for him. And the table is he's going over that's the third one when he goes over and has to cut off his ring finger. I mean, good Lord, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I love all the movies. The one time though, I kind of got like a little exhausted, where I'm like, "Fuck, man, I need a break." This is just one long, continuous action scene. Yeah. Was when he was going up the staircase.
Okay.
They keep knocking him down. He's fighting all these guys up there. I think that scene took like 15 minutes or something. I'm just sitting there going, "Okay, dude, like, wow, I've never thought I'd ever say this, but like, I need like them to talk or something, do a little drama." Can we stop fighting for a second? Like, I need to catch my breath.
Frank was fighting in a cage for a living at that age, and he's funny.
Yeah, I'm like, shit, man. Like, I'm getting action fatigue here,
Yeah. Oh no, they went deep in those. I wonder how long it took to choreograph those. It had to be insane. But,
go ahead. Because obviously they want to make sure there's no injuries. So every single maneuver we saw there. How many times did they have to shoot it? You know what I mean? Because they're talking about times they trained it, rep it, and then hit it, and the director, whether they liked it or not. So, like, anytime, too, the guys were on the staircase, I just always look at them like, okay, I know they do things as safe as possible. But the guys the next day were waking up, sore ribs, knees, ankles, hands. I'm like, they're doing the same maneuver for 3 or 4 hours. It has to hurt.
What did you think about Deadwood? I'm calling him Deadwood. Ian, from Deadwood.
Ian McShane,
yes. Right? What do you think about him shooting him at the end of the second one, and him falling? Like, my wife's like, well, if he wanted to kill him, he would have shot him in the head. And I'm like, I don't know, man. They didn't plan that shit. He went over the building, and first of all,
I think it was his way of, like, the way I remember interpreting it was like, all right, I have to, toe the line, because there's a lot of people, that I'm responsible for as, running this building, but then it also then gave, Keanu Reeves like a way out. His John Wick's character a way of like, okay, here you can regroup, because if they wanted to, obviously could have shot in the end of it, right? Headshot. But instead, it allowed him to kind of like, okay, either I think he's dead, get him out of here, recover for a little bit, regroup, and then I think that's why Fishburne's characters, then they grabbed him and brought him under.
Yeah,
was able to give him some reprieve. I actually, as far as like, I usually can call things when you watch enough movies, you sit there and go, okay, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I remember though the very final thing when he did the duel when he got to the top of the staircase. The fact that he said because he never fired. You know what I mean? Like, I guess for anybody at home watching plot to
that's the ending. Good.
When he sat there, they go, oh, he never took a shot, you know, because the guy walked up I just like also too, like the way it was written. I was like, oh, it just shows you like, and that happens in real life. People go, oh, well, you have the guy on his fucking, you know, have the guy on his heels. You got him fucked, you know, like just finish him. I'm like, dude, you know how many times I've seen that happen in fights where a guy rocks a guy and we start celebrating. You see that, you know, doing, and then boom, the fight goes the other way around. You know, actually, I think it was one of your students had one of the most remarkable turnarounds I've ever remember seeing. Was it Pete? Was it Sal?
Pete Drago Sal versus Scott Smith. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah.
Yeah, because there you go. It's like, wait a minute, like here. Talk about done. You know, the
I know,
like,
dude.
He's grabbing his body. I remember he caught him perfectly with that hook to the body.
Yes, and he went in for the kill.
The last second. I mean, he still dropped his knees after that. Like it was just the last desperate. Had he just sat there and been more cautious and, you know, going through. But here he goes, oh, I got you. Doing what the bad guy did at the end of that movie. It's like, oh, okay, well, I got you. Which, you know, how do you fault him? I'm like, yeah, that looked like you had him too. I don't blame you, man.
Right.
But, you know, a guy's never out till he's out, right?
100%. And what'd you think of the ending? What'd you think of the ending of the whole fucking thing?
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it had to wrap up.
I'm always a fan of things that are kind of like, okay, you know, neatly written out, you know, wrapped up. And again, the reason why when we talk about it, like, hey, we're going to talk about this, talk about that, I'm like, I like the fact that movies nowadays, again, I think that's one thing that Wick did is that, like, you know, still obviously there's things that are, you know, exaggerated. It still has to be entertainment, still a story. But when kids go home now, like, oh, I want to do that. It's realistic. I think that then when kids go into a gym, they're not completely disheartened. If you watch Bloodsport, for example, and if that was your understanding of what martial arts looked like or fighting MMA, you're like, oh, I want to do what Van Damme's doing. And you brought him into a jiu-jitsu gym and see a bunch of guys rolling around on the ground. And you're like, well, no, this isn't fighting. You're like, no, actually, no, this is really fighting. Jumping up in the air and doing 360 crane, you know, spinning hook kick, that's possible, but not really probable. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually not what fighting looks like. I
like in each one of these movies, the characters, like the side characters that come in and out. Like, you know what I mean? In the last one, you had the black hitman with his dog, another dog that's in there. He's another character that got introduced in that last episode, but it was a strong character. And also the guy from Shogun, who was his buddy that helped him out at the Ahsoka, what is it? The Carlton, right?
Right? Yeah, when they were in Japan in the hotel.
And that dude, talk about honor. I mean, that's the guy. Like, look, man, they're like, why are you doing this? You have no blood oath to him. He's like, listen, you know, basically you don't need a little coin to have a blood oath. There's some shit deeper than that. That dude was a loyal guy. So I like these little, because even though they're in, they're out, you get to see their character for that 10, 15 minutes they were on screen. I don't know.
So here.
You know, and that's what I like about these movies. And there's a lot of those guys in and out. You know, but
here, let me pick your brain on this because it's actually not a topic that my wife and I don't agree on. I see her point of view, and I think she sees mine, but I tell her that it's not realistic. Like, so to me, my code of honor ends where your code of honor ends. So if you say, "Hey, we're gonna fight," no kicking to the balls. I won't kick you in the balls. But if all of a sudden you swing for my groin, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, it's on the table now, buddy. But you opened the door. I'm more than happy to walk through it. So my honor goes as far as your honor goes.
Yes.
My wife, though, is actually like more like the Japanese character. What was his name? Because he also played Twilight Samurai. He's played in so many movies. He's an epic actor from Japan. But anyways, his character in that movie was like how I was. It's funny. I put it out to my wife. I said, see, like, honor bound, because we had friends one time, a close friend of hers, and we had found out that the friend was talking negatively, and we had a falling out, and you know, and obviously because, you know, girls are close, the friend knows all our skeletons and I know their skeletons back and forth. So we're sitting there kind of at a group gathering and finding out that this friend is like just spewing out information that should not be given out. That's disrespectful and stuff, you know. And so I get ready to go ahead and go, you know what, let me tell you about these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like, let me tell you what I know about them, you know? And I remember my wife kind of slapped me on the chest and like startled me a little bit, like, whoa, you know? She goes, no, just because they're scumbags doesn't mean we're going to be scumbags. You know what I mean? Like, basically, like, you know, they might not know how to honor friendship and be honorable, but that's not how I'm going to be. I remember like looking at it, I'm like, wow, I admire that. I don't think it's very good for survival, but I admire it. Like, it's like, that's something out of a movie that very few people have. So to see that people actually have that kind of commitment, where do you feel you fall on that spectrum?
You know, it's when someone does you dirty, it's hard not to be like, yeah, but this person's such a scumbag. Like, so it would be hard for me not to be like, listen, this person might be attacking my character, but I don't want to. I wouldn't want to paint them dirty. I see your wife's your wife's definitely smarter than us. She's definitely has the right, but it'd be definitely hard for me to not be like, dude, that guy's a fucking scumbag. Because I don't want to be like, you know what I mean? So it'd be hard for me not to defend myself, but I wouldn't want, if I knew this dude was doing shit, like that could ruin his family. Right. I'm not that guy. No, I would never look to really hurt anybody. Because I really feel, listen, I live in my own bubble, Frank. I mean, I go to my school, my family's there. I go home. I hang out with Christian here. I hang out with Jimmy on my other Unfiltered. That's it, man. I'm a homebody. That's all I do. At my school is my atmosphere. So I got 500 students that are all cool. Because if they're not cool, they're negative. They're fucking little shit drop out. Let me check with management. Out. Fucking, you know. So I like my world nothing but positivity. And even with family, I noticed you have to get the negativity out of your life to live the life that I'm living, to live the life that you're living, you know. We got to worry about, you get to a point as a man, you have your family, your circle, your tribe that you have to take care of. And if there's negativity invading that bubble, so I don't know. I'm just
Here's something I've kind of established in my family. And I know there's a lot of people that are probably going to think this is very barbaric or callous. But I think just because you're family doesn't give you a pass. You get the door open for you. You get to know me right off the bat because we are family. But to me, like, for example, if I were to start being a scumbag and I was not beneficial for my children in their life, say I was, just beating their mother or fucking coming home drunk, whatever. I don't think just because I'm their dad that I should get a pass. Well, it's like, it's dad, like, we'll work on it. It's like, no, I still got to earn your love and respect. And if I think too many people in our society think like, well, it's your brother, I'm your sister, I'm your kid, like, it's like, okay, like, so that gives you a pass to be a piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so wait a minute. So you should act better because you're, you know what I mean?
100%.
Not worse. And so I think that's why I've like established that in my people like, hey, I'll cut you off in a heartbeat. I have family members I haven't spoke to in 15 years because like I'm responsible to my children. That's who I answer to. You know what I mean? My wife and I are on the same team. That's the circle right there. If you try to penetrate or affect that in any way, I don't give a shit. Bounce. You know what I mean? Like, to a point 100%. Where, like, it scares her and other people because they know, like, hey, don't, because there's this saying, they go, blood is thicker than water, right? But whether it's true or not, I've done some research on it, and they think that it's, that's still the way it was being said, but there's another play on it where they go, blood is thicker than water of the covenant, right? So meaning that the blood you share with brothers that you go to war with, people that you choose to have hard times that are there, that have your back, that's thicker than the water of the covenant, basically being of birth. So just because you're my brother doesn't mean that I owe you more loyalty than my friend who showed up at 3 a.m. while I was fucking pulled over the side of the road, car broke down, and got out of bed. Like, no, like, it has to be earned love and respect. And I think that friendship and family members sometimes think, oh, I'm a family member, I'm afforded this. Like, that's why you act the way you act. You know what I mean? But like, it's like being on a football team. I'm like, hey man, you know that I'm never going to replace you. You're probably not going to play that good, but play in some like, Nick Saban type of establishment in college. He knew if you played on his team, if you missed a play, you get talked to one time. They speak to you once. Sit there and go, hey, do you know what you did wrong? Yeah, I did this. Cool. Do that twice and see where you are on the depth pool. You know what I mean? You just lost your starting position and you got to fight your way back up. So guys took their shit seriously. I think you give two people too much of a safety net, they don't act right. You know what I mean? They don't act right.
100%. Hey, Frank, listen, first of all, thank you for spending time here. We love the John Wick movies. I mean, when I got done with them, I enjoyed the experience of going. So I'm glad, man. And I went back in because you brought it up, and I go, let's go. I enjoyed it. I'm going to say more so than the last episode I did with Frankie Edgar. I had to relive the Van Damme movies. Not bad, but I enjoyed these fucking John Wick movies. Some of those didn't age great. But hey, listen, before I let you go, really quick, I know you have your you have a new sports drink. I'm gonna be drinking. You sent me some. I'm gonna be drinking this next week in studio. Just give me a quick where we can get it and just the quick download on it.
Yeah, man, I wish I was like a call in this when you try it, or during the week at any moment. I want to be on you and you check it out. But yeah, look, basically, we have an energy drink and also we call it like a mood drink. We have two different lines, right? So our energy drink, I wanted, because I drink a lot. I'm drinking coffee right now.
Yeah.
For a while, there, my wife, we had a friend that had a heart issue, and I remember she sat there and she told us afterwards. It blew my mind. And was telling the doctor, he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" She had basically had a heart attack. Feeling all the different chemicals that she had in her body, and some of those things you don't want to have in your body. You'd probably go to jail if they did. And she admitted to it because she was at that moment. She's scared shitless. She's gonna die. Doesn't want to die. So she's like, "Yes, last weekend, we partied, and had a good time." She told him. She drinks the Red Bull and vodka, and he stopped because that's actually worse than the other stuff you're doing. It wasn't that he was condoning any other drug use, but he's like, you don't realize how bad these energy drinks are on your cardiovascular system, on your heart. And so that was years ago. And then with Harrison wanting to mention it, and I was like, hey man, can we make it to where these energy drinks, my kids could drink them? You know what I mean? Like, let's make it to where it's something like that, that's healthy. So down from the green tea extract is where we get the caffeine, all the way through. Like, I don't feel guilty or I don't feel weird for my kid grabbing one. Now, if my kid walked in with a Monster or, Rockstar, like, I get a little scared about that stuff. That's
100%.
A little bit more chemicals and harsh on the system. So for energy drink wise, super healthy. And that's really the niche that we tried to really establish and go through. And then on the other side of it, our mood drinks, people don't really, rest and recovery is so important. Everybody thinks, oh, train harder, train harder. I'm like, no, train less, train smarter.
You got to have balance.
So the recovery drink that we use, it mellows you out. It has different things for the mind, the brain, GABA, to really, ginkgo biloba and our other drink. So just a lot of the stuff that we do is for healthy purposes. And the mood, I don't really drink a lot, but I'll order a drink because I notice it's usually always a fucking point of conversation when I sit down at a bar, a restaurant, and I'm like, oh, I like sparkling water. I'll take it. And I got it like, no, I'm not a fucking teetotaler. I just don't drink a lot, So instead now I just always order one drink and it keeps everybody off my ass. So I get a vodka and my mood drink, which now makes more sense because, a lot of people I see do like an alcoholic drink and then they take, they put they put an energy drink. And I'm like, wait a minute. So like the alcohols are depressing. The energy drink,
yeah, which direction you trying to go?
We're going up, going down, sideways.
Where can we find this, Frank? Where can I find these things?
If you go on our website,
Tell me.
the f3energydrink.com. We're also on Amazon, and so they can order it. They put in there, if you go through there, I think it's Mir 20 or Frank Mir, for a little bit of a discount code to get on there. If you go through my social media, it'd be the easiest way to tag it and go through. And yeah, you guys can get it ordered, brought to the house, and hopefully next week, like I said, we messed up on getting your order out there, but by Monday you should have a bunch.
I'll be drinking it. I'll be drinking it on air. And hey, man, Frank, I can't tell you. Listen, as proud as I am, because I know you since you were a kid, man. I know I was a little bit older. I'm a kid too. I'm only 5 years older, but to see what you accomplished in the cage is one thing, and that's a beautiful thing. And
do you remember what you choked me with?
What's that?
So you said you rolled with the whole class. You came in, you taught. And obviously, you held court. Everybody's enamored with you in the room. Because you're also at that point a unicorn. Anybody has a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, oh my God,
I don't remember, dude. I don't. But I remember you were like the last guy I rolled with. I was like, I know. Holy shit, this guy's not only big, he knows something.
And I was kind of like fighting you off and being strong, but then that's when you came through on the side control. You were able to grab me in the collar, and I didn't know it. I think when you jumped on the side, I'm like, oh, where's he going?
Shit. Well, listen.
Sneaky.
We're not rolling anytime soon now. We're done. I saw your Minotauro fight. Hey, listen, proud of what you've done in the cage. Even more proud of what you became as a man with your family and everything. It's great, Frank.
That, bro.
You're a good man. Hey, thanks again, bro. I'll be killing those drinks next week on air.
Cool, man. Do it again.
The best. Frank Mir. We'll be talking again soon, dude. I want you back on, man. This is fun.
Please. Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Awesome, dude. All my best, man. Thanks a lot, bro. Take care, Frank. That was fun, man.
Frank's awesome.
How great was that?
Frank's awesome.
Hey, dude, I could do that all day with him.
He's a great conversation.
He's going to be on again after fights. I had such a good time catching up with him and watching the John Wick movies. Let's get out of here. Dude, pizza's you hear my belly?
I hear
That's my belly. People, stay humble yet dangerous. Find your superpower. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.